That brings us to our point number 11. Not Kyrie Irving. Nope. It's Payton Pritchard. Sixth man of the year. Feeling great. I think it's undeniable that he was going to win it all year. I think everyone kind of knew it from the get-go. But it's official now. You see the graphic up here. But this will wrap it up, our last talk. Thoughts on Payton Pritchard winning sixth man of the year? We'll start off with you, David.
Yeah, I mean, well deserved. I think we all kind of saw this coming from November of last year. So, like, it was honestly just this rest of the season, just all right, let's just get to this moment. I mean, we saw what type of tear Payton Pritchard was on from the start. And it's just, all this has already been said in the Celtics community, but it's just a testament to the development of Payton Pritchard and what a ride he's been on here in Boston. We draft him at the end of the first round in 2020, has a decent sized role in his rookie season, given to the fact that the Celtics didn't have too much depth with that team as is. A little bit of a flash in the pan there, has his moments in his rookie season. Then, Brad Stevens takes over as GM. We, still don't have an incredible team in that second season, but we add some more depth. And obviously, Payton Pritchard still had a decent sized bench role. And obviously, he was, I think, either him or Neesmith, who was that one guy who ended up coming off the bench in that final series against the Warriors when that series got deeper and deeper. And he had his moments those first couple seasons off the bench, like that playoff run too. I remember he hit some huge threes in that Bucks game 7, becoming a fan favorite. And really, for me, it wasn't until that third season where like I started to appreciate this guy even more. And that's ironic to say because that third season with Payton Pritchard was a season where he was buried in the bench because we had Malcolm Brogdon and Derek White in front of him. But I just felt like all the minutes Pritchard gave us that season were great. I used to think this guy was just a guy who was just an offensive juggernaut and didn't really do too much defensively. But that season, is when I truly came to see what Payton Pritchard is today. A guy that can hit 3-point shots, do just enough playmaking, and also hustle. He can drive downhill and get buckets in the paint. He'll out rebound you, which is crazy for a 6'2", 6'3" guard be out rebounding, the big men in the NBA these days. But like I remember a sequence he had where he out rebounded DeAndre Jordan, who's almost 7 feet. So you just gotta love what you see out of Pritchard. And his professionalism that season where he was unhappy about his situation, but he understood why the Celtics were doing what they were doing from a roster construction standpoint. He respectfully requested a trade. And then, I mean, you want to talk about great underrated decisions here, but the decision to stick with a Pritchard over a Smart and a Brogdon, obviously, in hindsight now, was the right decision because we won the championship last year. And he was rewarded with getting a much more important role in the championship season last year when we cleaned out the backcourt a little bit. And I mean, obviously, he came alive and was known well for his buzzer beaters last season. And then this season, he's just starting to put it all together, just getting more minutes off the bench, giving us great minutes when he's on the court, hitting the 3-point shot, playing exceptional defense. I mean, I think another underrated part of Pritchard's development is his time with Jrue Holiday, and Jrue Holiday being part of the team because him and Jrue, it's been documented, they've worked together, and Pritchard has picked up a thing or two about how to play defense on the perimeter. And he's just another guy like we talked about with Tatum, where you can tell he just loves basketball, and like every chance he gets, he just wants to be on the court playing basketball. It was a shock this year when we would see Pritchard on the injury report and missing a couple games he did, where it's like he's just another guy, like I said, like Tatum, where it's shocking when he's injured or physically unable to play because we're always just so used to him being able to play. But yeah, I mean, just he had an amazing season this year. He's another guy that teams have to game plan for. Like that's the ultimate sign of respect is when that game earlier in the year where we played the Bucks and Doc Rivers said before the game he had Payton Pritchard's name in big bold lettering. So to have that for a guy off the bench is incredible. And it's cool too. A fun little fact that we all know is that 2 of the last 3 6-man of the year winners were Celtics, which I think is funny. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to what's next for Pritchard. But this has just been an amazing season for him, and yeah, what a decision it was to keep him. And I'm happy that he's happy here now, and I mean, all of us Boston Celtics fans appreciate him.
Yeah, Andrew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it just is a testament to his work ethic and his love of the game. I mean, he's just a student. You see his workouts that he does in the off season, playing against like all those players and just offensively going at it. It just shows that he wants it. So this is just proof in the pudding that his work ethic paid off. I think that Tatum has just been such an important piece to the Celtics from so many aspects. Obviously, his ability to score, his ability to make it impact on the offensive end. But we lost like a guy like Smart, who would come in, maybe hit a big three and swing that momentum. And I feel like Pritchard has given us that to the Celtics, where if he starts firing, if he starts hitting threes, he just makes the crowd roar. He makes the crowd get engaged and really gives us that swing of momentum that we can utilize and build off of for the rest of the game. So I just think he has been such a huge impact for the Celtics. He's an inspiration to me. He's a shorter guy, I look up. I appreciate his game and what he can do, and it just shows it honestly shows all these, shorter guards that are growing up, that are playing basketball, what you're capable of and what you can do if you work hard and stay the course. So, congrats to Payton Pritchard, and like David said, I'm excited to see what else he can bring to Tatum, what he can build upon, because I think the sky's the limit with him.
Yeah,
Well, you mentioned, look, Payton Pritchard, you mentioned small guards. And Pritchard, looking at his story in Boston, it's actually inspirational because, Dave, you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, where the professionalism of Payton Pritchard in respectfully requesting a trade, not being given the outcome of that request. Obviously, the Celtics kept Payton Pritchard, and he had to earn his way into the rotation. Looking at Payton Pritchard's career in Boston, I mean, it's been an ebb and flow. It's of ups and downs. His rookie season, when Payton Pritchard came into the ball game, his first preseason game was played against the 76ers back in December of 2020. The first play of the game, you could tell Payton Pritchard was special. Kind of gave that Brandon Williams vibe. Brandon Williams for the Dallas Mavericks right now, he gave off that Payton Pritchard vibe where just the first time you see him, you go, whoa, that's a little different. Like, that's something different. That's not a young, inexperienced player. That's somebody who's ready to come out here and play. Payton Pritchard, his first play on the floor, got the ball, dribble drive, hard to the rim, and didn't get to the rim, but pulled up for a midi, swished it, and it just felt like a moment where you're like, wait, that was his first play in the NBA? It feels like he's played 500 NBA games. I mean, the way he literally came in, took the ball, super aggressive early on, and just, boom, hit a shot immediately over the Sixers defense. That was back all the way in 2020. And we all know in 20 and 21, that season, 500 year for the Celtics, totally a throwaway season. But Payton Pritchard was the silver lining that year. It was like, oh, who do we have in Payton Pritchard right now? Payton Pritchard, the 26th overall pick in the draft, our rookie, he has something here. He definitely has something. But in year two, he's kind of relegated within that Ime Udoka rotation. He's in and out at the beginning of the season, doesn't really have a role. We're talking about trading him. We don't really know what to do. What's the future with Pritchard? Then he eventually finds a role on that team later on in time as that spark plug scorer. The best utilization of Pritchard was at the beginning of the fourth quarter. You know, Tatum, Brown, they would sit out, and the Celtics, they'd bring in Payton Pritchard and go, look, here are the keys to the offense for about 3 minutes here. Go do your thing. And that's what Ime Udoka would do with Payton Pritchard in 21-22. And then in 22-23, that season, Brogdon comes into the building, and all of a sudden, Pritchard, he's laced behind all these great guards within the Celtics rotation: Derek White, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon. Pritchard, he's fourth within that rotation. You're not going to play as much as a fourth guard, especially being as small as Payton Pritchard was, relegated in that rotation, and then he requests a trade. But the next season, Payton Pritchard, no Brogdon, no Smart, Pritchard steps up into a bigger role, into that third guard role, and he starts taking off from there. Now, last season, he didn't have as great of a season as this year, but you could see that ramp up. Payton Pritchard was clearly more involved in the team last year and clearly more impactful and important to last year's team opposed to any of the teams in the past. And now all of a sudden this year, the Celtics, thankfully, last 2 seasons, the Celtics keep Payton Pritchard, comes into this year and starts doing things in which puts him into the conversation sometimes on this program of all-star. Now, is he an all-star? In my opinion, no. Payton Pritchard is not an all-star, but he's the MVP of the bench. Out of all the bench players in the NBA, cut out all the starters in the NBA and just take the bench players. Payton Pritchard literally won the MVP award for all of the bench players in the NBA this season. And that is mighty impressive because what we saw out of Pritchard last year, it's like we weren't suspecting Payton Pritchard as the player, as the archetype of player he is, right? Small guard, and he's coming into the league. You saw typical, like David, you already kind of touched on it, like typical small guard. Think he's just going to be a good scorer. Like we've seen this a million times in the past, where a small guard comes in, they can light it up from three, they can get to the basket, and they can score the ball, but defensively they're nothing. Well, this season, Payton Pritchard got after it on both ends of the floor, and offensively, I would say that's obviously where everybody looks at Payton Pritchard and go, oh, he does most of his work there. But defensively, he brought it to the floor, and that's why he was able to stay on the floor for the majority of the season. If Payton Pritchard wasn't defending his ass off out there, he simply wouldn't be playing with the Boston Celtics. That's just a fact. But we all know offensively that's where Payton Pritchard made his bread and butter this season, and he was just phenomenal. I mean, Payton Pritchard was absolutely phenomenal on the offensive end of the floor this season. And just looking at Payton Pritchard's numbers this year, from like winning this award, obviously is great for Pritchard and his accolades. But just seeing how he got here, I mean, 14.3 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game, and those are all career highs from last year. And then 3-point percentage, 40% this year. The first 2 seasons of his career, he was up at 41.1, 41.2%. Then he dropped down 36, 38%, still a respectable 3-point percentage there the last 2 seasons. However, this year pops back up to 40%. And I was touching on this with Rob a couple of shows ago. I don't even remember which show it was on, but look at this. Okay, I'm just going to point this aspect out of Payton Pritchard here. So field goal attempts, right? Actually, let's go to 2-point attempts first. 2-point attempts. Pritchard shot 3.1 2-point attempts last season. Pritchard came into this season. He is shooting 3 this season. So 3.1 last year, 3 this year per game. Just raw stats right there. Same amount of twos, basically. 3.1, 3. He's taking a little less, but it's 0.1. It's like not that much, right? And from a shooting perspective on twos, he's shooting 5% better. Actually, 4.9%, basically 5% better from 2. And he's taking a little less, but basically the same. From 3-point land, okay, this is where the insanity of this stat comes in. Last year, Payton Pritchard took 4.7 threes per game, all right, and shot the 3 ball at a 38.5% clip. This season, Payton Pritchard is taking 7.8 threes per game. 7.8. That's nearly 3 more threes per game. It's actually 3.1 more threes per game. And he's shooting 40.7%. So Payton Pritchard, on average this season, took 3 more threes per game. Okay? Didn't even mess with the twos. He wasn't taking more layups, more floaters, more runners. It wasn't messing with his twos. Took 3 more threes within the offense. And his percentage went up by 2 percentage points. That's impressive in the NBA. That is truly impressive because typically we see the other result happen with players who increase their volume of threes, specifically talking on the 3-point ball. Players who increase their volume, you always see their percentages go down. I mean, it's just how the variance works. If you're taking more opportunities or taking more shots, you're potentially going to have a lower percentage than say, take 3 shots versus 7 shots. You have more ability to miss within that 7. And so just looking at the math of that, Payton Pritchard from particularly 3-point land, the efficiency is off the charts. I mean, he took 3 more threes per game and shot it at a percentage 2 percentage points higher than last season. I mean, that is a significant improvement for a player coming off the bench and playing the role in which Payton Pritchard has with the Celtics, because he's not a paid player on the Celtics. And look, the top five is paid. Al Horford, he's been paid in the past $10 million. Sam Hauser, you could say Sam Hauser and Al Horford off the bench. They're the two paid guys. They're not max guys, but they've been paid. Sam Hauser and Al Horford, the rightful dues. Payton Pritchard is not a paid player. I mean, he's, yes, 6-7 million a year, but that's extremely low for the value in which he's giving the Celtics right now, which is a bench player who literally took 3 more 3-point attempts this year, 3 more attempts, period, and shot it at a higher percentage. Like, that is a significant improvement for a team paying so much money to the top half of the roster and needing some bench help, and now getting it from a guy who contractually such a bargain deal for the Celtics, but just the improvement within some of the shooting numbers in his game as a whole has been spectacular to see with Payton Pritchard. I'll point this out too. Payton Pritchard within his development, part of the story for P is look at how many guards he beat out within the Celtics organization. Or, on one hand, you could say, yes, he beat out all these guards, and that's part of the story, but all these guards also helped Payton Pritchard to ascend to where he is today. I mean, look at some of these names. Kemba Walker, he played with Kemba Walker, Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder. We forget he played half a season with Dennis Schroeder. Dennis Schroeder, I look at him right now playing with the Pistons. I go, remember when he was with Al Horford and the Hawks 10 years ago? That was a long time ago. He's a legit veteran in this league. Jeff Teague played with him half a season. Another Hawks guard, ironically, played with Al Horford. But Josh Richardson played with him as well. I know people hear that name, but Josh Richardson had some game in him. I will say he was a veteran when Derek White, or I shouldn't say Derek White, Payton Pritchard was a rookie. So I should second year guy, I would say they played together within Payton Pritchard's second year. But Payton Pritchard, the whole point, young guy, veteran, Jay Rich, Derek White and Drew Holiday today. Those are two of the best defensive guards in NBA history, the best defensive backcourt in NBA history. David, you touched on it. Like Payton Pritchard has 100% picked up something from Drew Holiday, with Drew Holiday being on the roster. Not only Drew Holiday, but all these other guards, Kemba Walker, Malcolm Brogdon, Marcus Smart, Dennis Schroeder, Jeff Teague, Josh Richardson, Derek White, Drew Holiday. All of those guards, Payton Pritchard didn't beat out every single one of them. Obviously, White and Drew, they're still ahead of him in the rotation, but regardless, like, beat out a lot of these guards for that, second or third guard role, depending on the night. And also, he probably took a lot of things from these guards, Payton Pritchard did, over time. And I look at some of the history that's involved in basketball all the time. You go back to the 70s, the 80s, even the 60s, go back all the way in history there. Great players always have great mentors.
Okay.
Every single great player has a great mentor. And Payton Pritchard, looking at his time in Boston, tons and tons of great mentors with the C's. And what does it lead into? It leads into greatness, in which Payton Pritchard is achieving today. Payton Pritchard would not be able to win this Sixth Man of the Year award without the help of these guards and his situation within the NBA over time. Just think, if Payton Pritchard was playing for the Charlotte Hornets this entire time, do you think he would have as much skill as he has today, as much knack for the ball and the game as a whole as he does today? Not if you're not in a winning culture, if you're not in a culture in which you have good, savvy veterans around you, you're not going to learn as much as players who do. And Payton Pritchard, he got lucky within his NBA career, fell into the right situation, fell into a situation where there were a lot of great mentors around himself. And let's face this too, all these guards, right? They're on the roster. The Celtics line of history. I mean, look at all the guards in Celtics history that potentially, in the building, in and out over time, and willing to give advice. Doesn't even have to be guards. It's just general great players in Celtics history coming in and out of the building, giving great speeches, giving great conversations to some of these players. And Payton Pritchard has benefited from that over time, to the point where now he is a Celtic great himself. Is he going to be in the Raptors one day? We don't know. We don't know how many championships he's going to come out with. We don't know what his future role. It's only season 5 for Pritchard. We don't know what his season role in time will look like. But winning the Sixth Man of the Year, I believe we had a post on it on Instagram yesterday, maybe even X. There's only been a couple of Sixth Man of the Year award winners in Celtics history, and to do that, you see is is certainly quite the achievement for Payton Pritchard, who just a couple of years ago, just a couple of seasons, requested a trade from the Celtics, and even before that, looked like a player that didn't have any value on the trade market. We didn't really know where to go with Payton Pritchard. We were developing him. Is he going to turn in anything? Is he going to be paid? We asked Cortez that question about the Magic yesterday about who's the player that you're in between with, like, what are you going to do with this player? Is he playing? Is he not? Are we trading him? What are we doing? That was Payton Pritchard on the Celtics at one point in time. And I would say easily, this is the best case scenario for Payton Pritchard within his NBA career. And because of the size and where he comes from, who he is, this is the best case scenario for what the Celtics could have seen from Payton Pritchard in his NBA career, because this could have gone completely sideways. He could have been, I don't want to pick on him, Griffin, but JD Davison. It's like he could have been a JD Davison. He could have been down in the G League for a couple of years. JD Davison, I almost added him into the name of guards, great guards, the Celtics, next to Payton Pritchard. But I feel like Payton Pritchard might be mentoring JD more than JD's mentoring Pritchard. But regardless, he could have been like a JD Davison, where he spends a ton of time in the G League and he doesn't see any playing time. And maybe later down the line, it's like we just let him go, or we trade him like in a package where, Drew. I'm surprised looking at the Blazers or even the Grizzlies or the Wizards over time. How did none of them ask for Payton Pritchard? It feels like in those Drew Holiday, the Kristaps Porzingis trades, like Payton Pritchard, I feel like on the other end, it's like, just throw in Payton Pritchard. That never happened. The Celtics were able to hold on to him over time, that low salary. Now all of a sudden, I mean, this is seriously the best case scenario for the Celtics and Payton Pritchard. The only thing that would make it better for Pritchard is if he were on a $30 million contract. And unfortunately, if he were, this situation just wouldn't be working out as is. So as we see, sixth man of the year from Payton Pritchard, much deserved. We talked about him ad nauseum this season, and we all knew this award was coming. He's been minus 1,000 essentially since November, December to win sixth man of the year. Malik Beasley made a run at it, but I mean, when you're a guy like Payton Pritchard putting up what he has off the bench for a 61 win ball club and really helping the squad, I think that's what's been undersold a little bit within this the Payton Pritchard conversation. Is some people are saying, well, Malik Beasley, it's like Payton Pritchard wasn't as important to the Celtics as Malik Beasley was to the Pistons. But it's like, I kind of disagree. I think, yes, Malik Beasley certainly gave the Pistons a lot this season, but looking at what Payton Pritchard did, I mean, he basically propelled the Celtics to 60 wins in November and December. We didn't know later on in time that would be the result, but at that time period, we're the only players giving effort and energy out there consistently on an every night basis. We were consistently talking about Payton Pritchard here every single night in December and January. He was always the bright spot. He was always the player. It's like, oh, we didn't play great this game, but hey, look, Pritchard, 20.9. He gave his intensity, gave his effort. You don't have to question Payton Pritchard on whether or not he wants to play in a ball game. Payton Pritchard, his intensity, his physicality, his ability to shoot the ball, his confidence, his ability to rebound, his confidence in rebounding the ball too against these giants in the NBA, being basically our size on this podcast here, on this broadcast. Let's call it what it is. It's a broadcast. But Payton Pritchard, everything that comes along with Payton Pritchard's game, he was super important for the Celtics this season. And I just think that's a little understated in all this when people talk about Malik Beasley or Payton Pritchard. It's like, no, Payton Pritchard for 2 months there was easily the hardest playing Celtics player, and a player in which kept the Celtics afloat on some nights in which the Celtics, we saw, they didn't give their full intensity, didn't give their full effort within games. But guess who did? It was Payton Pritchard, and I'm sticking with it. He propelled the Celtics over 60 wins this season. And I think without Payton Pritchard, look at that bench. Like, what are we getting off the bench? Al Horford, Sam Hauser, Shireman. I know, obviously Shireman, very young. Torrey Craig's like, without Payton Pritchard, that bench is just gone. It's a nothing bench, essentially. You have Hauser and Horford, and you're playing your starters heavy minutes in the playoffs. Now Payton Pritchard being on this roster in the spot in which he's in, he gives this roster a huge boost because of that depth, that ability for Joe Mazzulla to go even deeper within the lineup and create more rotations out of what Payton Pritchard can bring you. I mean, the minutes eaters, we talk about innings eaters in baseball, but Payton Pritchard, he's kind of a minutes eater out on the basketball floor. He can come out there. He plays well. You can fit him into many different rotations. He can handle the ball. He can play off ball. And yes, he's going to be hunted defensively sometimes, but he's not going to give up on that end of the floor because Payton Pritchard, he's very intense, very physical. He's a very stout player for his size, and he's never going to give up on that end of the floor like we saw all season long. And this Sixth Man of the Year award at the end of the year is so deserving for Payton Pritchard because the mentality in which he has, the confidence in which he has out on the basketball floor, it's unmatched by a lot of people in the league. And one day I hope Payton Pritchard gets that check, an even bigger check than what he's making right now. But for now, I think that the Sixth Man of the Year award, that'll do him some good for that check later on in time, and maybe another championship ring later on down the line.
Yeah, I agree. Really quick, you talk about how much of an important factor he was for the Celtics this season. I want to jump into Celtics Nation Rise MVP for regular season. We didn't really talk about it much last podcast, but Tatum had 25, Porzingis with 8, and then look who was in third place. Payton Pritchard with 7. Yeah, it wasn't Jaylen Brown. It wasn't Derek White. It wasn't anyone else. It was no other than Payton Pritchard in that third place. And I think that's incredible. He was, according to Celtics Nation Rise with wins, he was your third best player on the team. He won the third most MVPs. So he deserved Sixth Man of the Year. And I want to say from my perspective, when I started liking Pritchard, I went to one of his, I think it was his rookie year. I don't remember. But we were playing the Trailblazers, and I went to a game, and he was shooting shots from half court like he was Curry. And some guy in the crowd yells, "You're not Curry, stop shooting that." And like he was getting all mad, heckling Pritchard. And I was like, I'm not a fan of him either. Like, why is he shooting shots out here when he literally barely has a role in here? But Seamus, you already mentioned it too. He had such great mentors. And I think the Pritchard rise really started last year when he started getting noticed, and he got noticed for those notable half court shots. Because it looked like he had a magnet to the basket whenever he shot a half court shot. It looked like he couldn't miss. Like there was a magnet to the ball, to the rim. And that's what it essentially seemed like. And that's when I started growing with Pritchard. You call me a bandwagon Pritchard fan then for sure, because I became a fan of him then. But it's the fact that I think it's so impressive that can translate to his game. And you see his incredible ball handling drills. You see those how much he works, how much effort he puts into. He's incredible. That 91 points a long, long time ago. He's an incredible player. And just for him to get his flowers and respect like this is just incredible. And it's well deserved. And I became a big Pritchard fan starting last year, and I loved it. And I got 2 Pritchard jerseys this year. Like I'm such a big Pritchard fan. Let's pull it up again. Sixth Man of the Year. Yeah, that's right. I think we all knew it was going to happen. You heard it on all the broadcasts. But I'm proud of him. I think that's what we're going to wrap it up with, though. So
I'm going to add one more thing. Payton Pritchard, we talked about when he came into the team. Can he replace Marcus Smart? Is he the Marcus Smart replacement in time? Turned out he was. Payton Pritchard 100% was the Marcus Smart replacement. Now you could say, yeah, Drew, Derek White, sure, they play a role too. But Payton Pritchard, he did replace Marcus Smart within the rotation. And even furthermore off that point, I'm surprised. Let's just throw this dynamic out there. The Celtics, David, you mentioned this kind of interesting. Let's see, the last 3 seasons, right? The last 3 Sixth Man of the Year. The Celtics have 2 of them. So Brogdon, Pritchard, and then Naz Reid right there in the middle last year. What's insane is the Celtics, 2 Sixth Men of the Year, right, in this era. And neither of them are Marcus Smart. Like the way Marcus Smart came into his career and played that 6-man role with the Celtics, it's very surprising that we look at now in 2025, the Celtics as a franchise to have 2 players who have been Sixth Man of the Year, and neither of them are Marcus Smart. But one of them, of course, Payton Pritchard, being a guy who kind of replaced Marcus Smart in time. Maybe not so much in every aspect of the game for the Celtics, and there's obviously nuances to different teams and rotations. But we talked about when Payton Pritchard was drafted, can he replace some of the guard roster, Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, those 2 primarily. Those were the 2 starting guards for the Celtics in 2021. in time, we saw Payton Pritchard, sixth man of the year. We're talking about him winning sixth man of the year right now. It's like the progression between that point and now, it's certainly been something to witness from Payton Pritchard, because I didn't foresee this within his career. I think the only person who foresaw this was Mr. Nick Franco. Franco, literally on our either first or second post game of the season, when the Celtics were out in Abu Dhabi facing the Denver Nuggets, Franco randomly comes out with a take going, I wouldn't be surprised if Payton Pritchard, sixth man of the year this year. 6 months later, here we are. I can't believe it. I talk to Franco. He has the crystal ball, folks.
Yeah, he sure does. I mean, calling that. Well, we did some predictions. I want to say this at the beginning of the season. Me and my sister's boyfriend, and he went with Payton Pritchard, sixth man of the year, and I went with Nas Reed. But I asked him a day after the first game. I was like, "Can I switch it to Pritchard?" And he let me. But I don't want to count it now. But like. But
Well,
can we count it?
Because the Wolves, they're deep. I had Dante DiVincenzo. I totally understand the Nas Reed take.
So, but
It's like Jamal Crawford, he won every year. It's like,
yeah.
What can you do?
But can you guys still give it to me if it was a day after the season started, like after that first game? Can you give it to me then, or do you think it doesn't?
Can you get on a flight after the gates close, Griffin?
You're
No,
right.
We'll give you an asterisk, like the bubble.
I don't know. I feel like no, if you're saying it months ago and we're not even into the season, I feel like that has to count in some capacity. You can't just...
If it was All-Star break and I'm like, oh, it's Payton Pritchard, then that's not fair. You know?
Yeah, but if it's the second game of the season,
you could give it to me.
Maybe where it gets a little dicey is like maybe like the fourth game or fifth game of the season where he had that Milwaukee performance. Talk about, Doc Rivers circling him on the big board, and then he has that moment where he's on his Doc Rivers is literally bent over on his knees, and it's like maybe after that game you start docking points, but before that it's like no, there weren't too many moments where everybody's looking at Payton Pritchard sixth man of the year, but it's like as the season progressed, I feel like you go down.
You hopped on the flight the next day. You missed the first flight.
I missed the first flight, but I hopped on it.
Luckily, though, Pritchard handing out a lot of tickets for flights this season.
He is, yeah, and we gotta mention that I gotta get one of those Pritch Please shirts. I really do. I think I'm slacking. Everyone has a Pritch Please shirt, and I think I need one. I have the cookies and cream one, which was barely even a hit, but now we come out with Pritch Please, and everyone has it. I have to say though, I was on cookies and cream shirts. I was. I still rep my cookies and cream.
I need a corn on the lob. Cornet on the lob.
Oh yeah,
I like that one.
Corn on the lob.
Corn on the lob.
I love it. I haven't.
I'm a fan of that one.
I haven't even seen that one.
Shout out to Ricardo for the
Hey, I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just saying this. Let's shout him out right now. I love Boston sports. Okay. I love Boston sports. Just saying, folks. Just saying. Just saying. Maybe foreshadowing for the future. That Pritch Please shirt. Hang on, Griffin. Hang on, because I love Boston sports. Shout him out. Right? Shout him out. I love Boston sports. I'm just saying. I'm a little foreshadowing. I won't give anything away, but I'll just say that.
Mouth closed. I gotta say, I met Porzingis with I Love Boston Sports. Just saying, they're great. They're great. Check them out. They're great.
Yes, this is a company, folks, by the way. I love Boston sports. Obviously, we all love Boston sports. Yeah. General statement and
double
a company.
Meaning. Double
and
meaning.
A company.
Yeah, it's
why it's such a great name.
It is. I love Boston sports. I do love Boston sports, and you guys should too. Make sure to like and subscribe if you love Boston sports.